Romance is the form of love that has always felt the most distant to me, far away and foreign, something relegated to daydreams and the media I consumed, but not reality, at least for the large majority of my life. True crushes always seem to be very few and far in between, let alone actual relationships. I saw friends go through many different partners and love stories in the time it took me to have my first kiss, sneaking in right before my 20th birthday. While I filled up pages of my journal with fantasies and daydreams of what I wanted my romantic life to look like, people around me were actually experiencing it, even if it was just teenage puppy love. Their journals getting filled with pages of infatuation, while my actual experiences probably took up no more than several lines on a page. When others could go down the line ticking off many different ex-partners and lovers, I would mostly only be able to recall crushes, many of which I never actually told about my affections. I felt like I was doing all the so-called right things, playing the role of the poster child of all the cliché advice given to those who are single. I fell in love with myself first, pursued my passions, poured love into my friendships and familial relationships, and put myself in situations where I would meet new people. I listened to myself and put honesty first. If my interest wasn't aligned with someone else's, I wished them well and continued on, even as the fear of falling behind lingered in the back of my mind. But still, for the first 2 decades of my life, I continued to be more of an observer to romance rather than an active participant, never being able to cross the threshold into a relationship. Even though I had built a solid foundation of self-love and had beautiful platonic and familial connections, I couldn't help but wonder if there was something wrong with me that I was just blind to. When I so frequently saw opportunities align for others, why wouldn't the universe line up for me? I know so-called experience doesn't automatically translate into integrity, kindness, good communication, or any of the constellations of traits that create healthy partnership. Quantity does not equal quality, and romantic experience does not equate to personal worth. Experiences are meant to be experienced, not measured. And when I remind myself that everything happens at the time it's meant to for each individual person, there's no such thing as a late bloomer. Even as these affirmations were planted in my mind, it was another thing for them to fully take root in my soul. Feelings of inadequacy, undesirability, and invisibility still occasionally bubbled to the surface. As romance began slowly trickling into my life, I still struggled with lingering feelings of embarrassment when I thought about the distance I perceived in the romantic experience my peers had and I didn't. As time passes and my age ticks up, I become more intimidated by the potential distance between me and any future partner's romantic background, feeling like a tall child trying to disguise themselves amongst full-grown adults, trying to work through the irony of feeling too inexperienced to pursue a romantic connection, which I then realize only holds myself back from gaining the experience I feel like I lack. On top of the metaphorical distance I already felt like I had to cross when it came to experience, those who I shared romantic connections with always ended up coming from and/or inhabiting places miles away, crossing borders and plane rides. Physical distance became another thing I had to journey across. I once tweeted that I literally don't know how to like people who live close to me, trying to make light of the through lines I noticed span my crushes and romantic interests. There has always been an element of distance and travel in the large majority of people I have liked. The high school classmate who sat in front of me on exchange from Germany, my first college crush who grew up off the mainland, the polyglot who had traveled the world, my first partner who I met across the world in Tokyo, the time we spent apart being longer than the time we ever spent together, and my love from the neighboring country who I never see in the same place twice. Distance has clearly made my own heart grow fonder. There is a beauty I behold and an eternal gratefulness I have for those who I have loved, pined after, and deeply cared for from afar, and for those who have reciprocated that love back to me. The willingness and desire to stay connected across space and time zones, relishing FaceTimes, sending letters and care packages, daily texts, voice notes, the creativity of coming up with fun activities to do together through pixels on screens, trying to take up space in the digital realm as a way to make up for the physical space we're unable to take up with our bodies. And there's something wonderful about getting to know someone from a completely different place, to see this location that shaped them through their experiences and memories, beyond tourist attractions and popular spots, learning about the heart behind these slivers of space, the memories lived through by the person you love, and to then experience your own home through their eyes, things that you thought dull and uninteresting lighting up the eyes of your lover. But amidst the gratitude, I'm still left with a feeling of wondering and longing for something I haven't yet encountered. I genuinely wonder what it will be like to experience the everyday ebb and flow of life alongside someone, both the exciting and the banal. What would it be like to run daily errands together, to be able to offer a hug at any time? When time apart far exceeds time together, even the mundane feels like a new adventure. What would it be like to live and cultivate a life together, beyond just cheering on the other person from afar, allowing love, that person, and their existence to seep through the spaces of yours as your lives become more enmeshed and entangled? It's both a scary and exciting thought for me. Because if I'm being completely honest, I've learned to make a comfortable home in the distance between me and romantic love, sometimes where lines are blurred between healthy independence and avoidance. Avoidance of a kind of closeness that's different from the platonic and familial ones I've gotten to know so well. A certain amount of space has always been the default for me. And as I begin to have the romantic experiences I fantasized about my whole life, I find myself on a tightrope, balancing between deeply desiring, but also being deeply afraid of this new level and type of intimacy. Am I ready to be seen so up close? And am I also ready to see someone else so intimately, allowing the depths of each other to be welcomed and held with care? There's still a small part of me that chooses to believe the myth that distance, in its different manifestations, provides a so-called safety net in case we go our separate ways, less to unravel and pull apart both physically and emotionally. Romance on its own is already full of many highs and lows and twists and turns. Long distance adds an entirely new dimension. The high excitement of meeting again after a long time has passed. Every touch electric with the knowledge that time together is limited. The lows of deep longing and seemingly never-ending I miss yous. The heavy helplessness of having to see your partner go through difficult times from afar. When the distance is closed and a daily routine is set, will they still want to stay? Will they still find me interesting? Once we've crossed the distance to be close to each other, what will it be like to traverse the distance of long-term romantic love?